So before this video gets started, I just want to say, please watch the whole video. I said a lot. Y'all know I can kind of go in sometimes. And yeah, I just wanted to talk to my wives out there, talk to those who are wanting to be wives, and kind of get some, excuse me, get some conversation going. So yeah, watch the whole video. Comment during the video if you would like, but just watch the whole video and let it play out, and then give me your thoughts and ideas, and just listen to slow down a little bit. Say, God, what is she really trying to say here? And just listen to me. So, all right, love you guys. Keep watching. Hello, YouTube. So I'm holding my phone today because my tripod is in the car and Bill is not here. But I felt something on my spirit, and I needed to get it out. And it's not very often anymore that I feel like, I need to get a word out to you guys. I feel like as I come into my womanhood and into my purpose fully, like as I become whole, which is a process, y'all, it's a process. I feel like my purpose kind of rounds itself out to who I truly am comfortable being and who I feel like God truly wants me to be. But today, I kind of felt on my spirit that I needed to put this on video. So maybe that means that somebody out there is dealing with the same thing. Maybe God is trying to put this word out to other married women or those who are seeking to be married. Because today I kind of just felt on my spirit that I needed to film it. So I got a message for y'all today. And, this is something that I dealt with on and off throughout my entire marriage, but it's really starting to come to light who I am and who I am purposed to be as a wife, and who wives are purposed to be. I struggled a lot with the Proverbs 31 woman and who she's supposed to be, and my reflection of trying to be her, and putting a lot of pressure on myself. And I feel like a lot of women do that, trying to be or become the Proverbs 31 woman without really seeking wisdom and insight into what God is actually trying to say and the example that he's trying to give us in who she is. So I did a little bit of research and kind of a couple devotionals, and prayed it out in terms of what it means to be a Proverbs 31 woman. But that's not really what my message is about today. It kind of goes along with that though. So today I want to talk about what it means to be a wife, and what it means to, like, what our purpose as wives is. If I can give you a little bit of background, those of you who have been following me and Bill for a while through our social media or through our YouTube channel can date all the way back to our Unequally Yoked video, where we really told you guys our testimony in terms of what happened and how it happened. And if you need to go watch that, go ahead. Keep in mind that that's a few years ago, so we've evolved since then. But the gist of that video is kind of just me coming into the idea of who I am in God's eyes, and kind of connecting God saving our marriage in a way that was transformative, which kind of has us here where we are today. And since that video and since that transformation, it's been a number of small transformations, small victories, a lot of battles. That's my baby. I'm standing because I'm swinging her at the same time that I'm talking to you guys. It's been a lot of battles. Some we've won and overcome, lots of them. We have some we've had to go through quite a few times before we realize and recognize what God was really trying to say. But I kind of wanted to talk about what is the purpose of a wife. So God set up a design, right? He set up the design where God is the head. He's the head of the family. But beneath him is the man, the husband. Beneath the husband is the wife. and the children, and so forth. So the wife has reign over certain things. She has reign over the household, she has reign over the children, but above her is her husband, above her husband is God. This is the dynamic that we want to align ourselves with, so that we can truly manifest the blessings of God in our lives, so that we can see these things come to pass. Now, there's a lot of argument there. Like, we live in this new age type of atmosphere in the world now, where women are, they have a lot more rights, a lot more privileges, which I think is wonderful. This is not going to be a video about suppressing who you are as a woman, but it is going to be a video about making sure that while you're living in that, you don't rise yourself above your husband's wants, his needs, and what is necessary in order to truly line up with the design that God has put in place. Because as his children, our main purpose is to love God, worship God, and to align ourselves with his will, so that we can live under the covering and under the blessing that he has for us. You can't live an abundant life. You can try to manifest an abundant life for yourself through works, but that won't last. But the virtues that are carried, the fruits of the Spirit that are carried with living that abundant life, can only come through aligning yourself with the will of the Father, aligning yourself with the design that he has put in place for us as his children to live under. So the first thing that I have written down, because I did take a few notes because I felt like I needed to be a little bit more streamlined with this message for my ladies out there. But the first thing that I wrote down is a wife is intended to be a helpmeet. Now, that's something that if you grew up in the church, or if you visited church at all, if you've done any kind of research on what a wife is, you should know that. Okay. The wife's intention in the marriage is to be a helpmeet to her husband. We are to help our husbands meet their goals, their visions that God gives them. With that being said, there have been times that I've had to ask myself, am I being a help or a hindrance? And I think that that's something that as wives, we should be consistently asking ourselves, because you always want to heart check yourself and make sure that you're still aligned with who God is wanting you to be in your marriage and in your life in general. So something that we should be consistently asking ourselves are, am I helping my husband to meet his goals, or am I hindering him? Now, there's plenty of ways. We could talk about 9 million ways that you can be hindering him. I think that if we look at our behavior and we look at our lives and we look at the fruit of our lips, especially because words matter and they're very powerful. My husband always says words are spiritual. And it's so true. And it's really, there's a revelation in that when you think of it that way, that your words are actually spirit. And when you speak, it means something. So what words are you speaking to your husband? What words are you speaking into the atmosphere of your home? What words are you speaking over you guys' life, over your marriage? That's something that should be done both in prayer and outside of prayer. I think that what happens a lot as wives and just in general as human beings, we can sometimes get very spiritual in the presence of God. And then when we come out of that space, it's like our mask turns around and we become more worldly just because we're surrounded by the world. But we're supposed to take on that Christ-like nature and that Christ-like behavior that we receive when we're in the Spirit and when we're in prayer and when we're in the presence of God. And remember that you are still in that, even in the world as you're operating. So how can you help your husband? I think a lot of people's complaint, and especially the women who are connected to me and my channel, their complaint is that their husband is not even close to what they feel like a godly husband is or should be. And I'm sorry to break it to y'all ladies, but that has a lot to do with who you are also, who you are reflecting. Because let me tell y'all something, and I'm sorry if this is offensive to some of y'all, but you will not attract anything outside of who you are. So if you are reflecting Christ, you're going to attract the Christ in other people. You're going to attract a Christ-like husband because you are Christ-like. That doesn't mean that you're following every rule. That doesn't mean, I'm not talking about those who are celibate and who are following all these rules to try to make themselves holy, and they feel like their Boaz should come along and the Lord is not providing the husband that they want because they feel like they're doing everything right. I'm talking about your heart and your spirit. I'm talking about, do you have the fruits of the Spirit? Is it clear that God dwells within you? Is it clear that you are manifesting the fruits of the Spirit? I think that it's healthy and good to ask your husband, to communicate with your husband and ask him, what are your goals? What are some of your goals? I think that wives can sometimes be afraid to ask their husbands, even if they're working men, if there is something more that you're looking for, then don't be afraid to communicate with them and ask, what are your goals? How can I help you meet those goals? How can I be a better helpmeet to the vision that you have for your life? Talk about the vision that you guys have for your life. If you're not happy in the circumstances that you're in, then you walking around frustrated is not going to help the situation. You have to make sure you are setting the tone, because humans are meant to follow. And what I have noticed, there was a whole reversal that had to happen between me and my husband in terms of roles and responsibilities. But once I let that control go and allowed him to be the head that God created him to be, and he took on that role, he got very busy. And the reason why, I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. I wanted to be in the house, and I didn't even honestly understand the desires of my heart in that area were lining up with God and with the purpose that he had for me in terms of my family. I didn't understand the extent of that, but once I started to understand, I kind of got frustrated because I was like, no, I wanted to stay home and be cute and take pretty pictures for Instagram and do videos and watch TV and cook dinners and have a good time. I didn't realize that me staying home, God was opening up that space for me so that I could have time to spend with him, so that I could have time to be in prayer, so that, many of us are saying we don't have time to do these things. And if you're a working mom, trust me, this is not to bash you or to whatever. It all is according to the desires of your heart and the faith that you have to align with God's purpose. The Proverbs 31 woman, the ideal woman, she was not a working outside of the home woman. She worked, she had her work, and you can read the entire Proverbs 31 chapter and see all of the duties that she had. She was busy. She was a busy woman, but she carried certain virtues because she remained close to the Spirit of God. And I'm not saying that a man cannot remain close while he's working outside of the home, but you got to admit, ladies, you can attest to this because I was a wife who worked outside of the home. It is a little bit more difficult to be outside of the house in the world and be that focused on God. The distractions are everywhere. But when you are blessed to be able to be in your home, make sure that you're home with a purpose. Make sure that you are being the covering for your children, that you are being the covering for your husband, because they're out there fighting the battle. You should be behind the scenes fighting the battle. So that, for me, is the number one way to be a helpmeet to your husband, is to cover him in that way. The second point that I wanted to make is, as wives, we should be lightening the burden for our husbands and not putting more burden on them. So if you're frustrated, you better learn how to get yourself together. And ladies, let me tell you something. I was notorious for, when my husband got home, putting all of the burden of the day and of the children and of the house on him. And my husband was so good that he took it well, and he knew how to lift me up even in that. And I'm not saying that the responsibility doesn't fall on them to be able to do that, because it does. But your purpose and your journey with your husband will be so much more smooth and so much better if you learn how to give those burdens to the Lord and not give them to your husband. Especially if you're complaining that your husband is not a godly man, or he's not as connected or as close as you would like him to be, and then here you come burdening him down with more burdens than he already is dealing with on his own. You ain't helping the situation. I had to learn how to deal with my emotions with God, deal with the things that I was going through that I felt like I was frustrated about or whatever, and give my husband what he deserved. Now that goes back and forth. There are seasons for everything, and you're going to have that time where you're lifting each other. But our human nature, we're designed to be mirrors. So if your husband comes in with joy and you begin to burden him down with problems and issues, there's nothing wrong with saying, I had a bad day today and I really don't want to put those feelings on you. So, is it okay if you take the kids and I can have a moment to myself? I've had those times with my husband. That doesn't mean that you have to be superwoman or pretend to be something that you're not, or pretend to feel something that you're not feeling. No, I'm just telling you to be emotionally responsible for your own self and not expect your husband to do that for you all of the time. So that is the second way to be a helpmeet to him, is to not burden him down with more burdens than he's already carrying. Now, there's a responsibility on the man as well that the Bible speaks about, like washing you with the water of the word. And those are ways that those burdens can be lifted off of you as well. My husband would be better at speaking on that than I would, obviously, because that's his job and he does it. But there have been times when we need it from each other, or he's not feeling it and he needs it from me. And we both need to be able to carry that mantle in order to truly be successful. So that's all I'm saying. I'm not saying, ladies, that it's all on you. I'm saying that you both need to be strong enough in the spirit to be able to carry that for each other. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was goals. I think that as women, and especially like independent type, if you know the Lord, then you're independent in some respect, because he creates you to be that way. Obviously, at the end of this lifetime, we're not going to stand before God with our husbands and with our children by our side. No, it's going to be just us, and he's going to be, we're going to be responsible for the things that we did with our lives. So to some extent, you are independent. But with that, deception can come, because you have your own goals. You have your own achievements that you want to achieve. And I think that women can be a lot more ambitious than men because of our emotions. We get very passionate. We get very connected. And especially when you have a relationship with God, when you've been in connection with God, I know me, when I come out of the spirit, I'm ready to go full force, full throttle towards whatever goal I'm working on at that time. But a lot of times I have to draw myself back and remember, okay, Amanda, make sure that your goals don't supersede or step outside of the goals of your husband. If they do, then the only examples that I've had is that it's going to cause a conflict, or the only things that I've seen come out of that. If you have goals that are completely opposite from your husband, and you guys have an understanding and you are happy with the way that your life is, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the ones who want to have that togetherness, want to have that connection, maybe even want to have a business with their husbands, want to start something with their husbands, and don't know where to go, where to start, and have their own goals and feel like, well, I'm just better off doing it myself. Because I felt like that sometimes. I felt like, well, if we're not going to do something together, which we are now, but that's another video. I won't even discuss that. But I have felt like, well, then I'm better off just doing it myself, because I know the steps I need to take. I know where I need to go. But we are so much more powerful together as husband and wife than we ever were by ourselves. And honestly, it's something that my husband had to learn also, because he had to understand that I am there to help him and he can utilize my help. So ladies, if you put that barrier up and you're tackling your goals and you're doing everything and you're not understanding why your husband can't do the same thing, understand that he might feel intimidated. He might look at you and be like, wow, she can do all of these things and I can't. So you can leave him feeling purposeless. And I'm not saying that it's your fault. Of course, it's an insecurity that he has. But if you're his wife and you love him, then you should be trying to do things that will encourage him to walk in his purpose and not deter him or cause more insecurity. So there's nothing wrong with having your own goals and tackling your own goals and achieving things for yourself. But I would just suggest that those goals either align with or mesh with the goals of your husband. So if you two have completely opposite different goals, then you're going to be traveling on different paths, and that's okay too if that's the type of marriage that you've set up. But like I said, I'm talking to those who want to have something together with your husband. I had to start over because baby started crying. The other thing that I wanted to mention is the virtues of a Proverbs 31 woman, which I'll list in the description box because I don't want to go over all of them here. But if you can't remain in that while you're attacking your goals, if you can't still maintain that joy and that peace and cover your family and have that relationship and have that connection with your husband, then something is lacking. Something somewhere is lacking. And I have had to set aside certain things so that I could be a stronger woman for my family and for my husband, because those things are more important to me. Yes, it's important that I minister to you guys. Even I enjoy doing this. I love doing this. I love connecting with you ladies. But at the end of the day, my family and my husband and my home supersedes that, and it should for you too, because those are the things that God has set before you to be your ministry. If you are a mother or if you are a wife, those come first. Those things come first. So if you find yourself pouring more into your career, of course you're going to see the fruit of that labor because you had faith to pour yourself out in that way. But you may also see the fruit decline in other areas where you haven't been pouring. Now, the way to remain balanced, sometimes you have to set things aside. I've had to find myself setting things aside to make sure that I am pouring into what is most important, and then I can come back around and bring those things back into my life where I have more balance and more, I feel like this generation is just riddled with anxiety and depression. And that's because we look around and we see our lives and we don't see the fruit of the labor and the work that we feel like we're putting in. For one, anxiety makes you exhausted. Crying makes you exhausted. And those things, they tire you out anyway. So if you are depressed and anxious, you're going to feel more tired than you actually are anyway. And secondly, you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be fulfilled, because only the things that you do for God will last. So if you're doing it for yourself to get more money or to get more clout or to get more likes, come on, y'all, let's be for real, or to get, anything that's outside of God, it's going to deplete you, and it's not going to put anything back into you that will sustain you. Only God's Spirit can do that. So just make sure that you are receiving while you're pouring. And receiving, when I say receiving, I mean like you're receiving the Spirit of God, because you can receive other things and that will deplete you also. That will kill you spiritually also. Trust me, y'all, I've had a very successful makeup career, very successful. But I felt empty on the inside because I was pouring myself out and I wasn't filling myself back up on the Spirit of God. And that pour of just ugliness was dripping all over the place. It was dripping on my family. It was dripping on my husband. And I was destroying my own ministry, my own responsibility that God had put before me. So yeah, I guess I wanted to put that out there for you guys. It's something that as a wife, I think you work on daily. And I think we do get to that point eventually where we're feeling like, so yeah, you guys, I don't want to kill anybody's dreams. I don't want to, be the one who says you got to stop doing that. But what I know is that it's okay to take inventory of what you have been working on, what you've been doing, and really sitting with God and putting before Him every area of your life and saying, is this a reflection of who you are? Is how I'm operating in this particular area a reflection of Christ? And if it's not, adjusting. If it's not, putting this to the side for a minute while I work on this. And that could be that you're flourishing and thriving in your marriage and in your family, and you feel purposeless because you don't have anything for yourself. That could also be some of you ladies. And that's also the responsibility of being a wife and being a helpmeet, because if you are not working on something, actively working on something that you feel like can fulfill you, you're going to be frustrated anyway. You're going to feel purposeless. You're going to feel depressed. And you also are going to be separated from God and not being able to help your family, your husband, or, So I hope that this has helped somebody. Let's discuss in the comments. Let me know how you ladies feel. You kind of see in the background, y'all like that little wood thing? Bill, he built that when we first moved here. And yeah, everybody always loves it. And I love it too. My style is like glam farmhouse, I would say. So, yeah, let me know in the comments how you guys feel about being a wife, being a helpmeet. I know I probably said some things that y'all might disagree with. I know I've said some things that y'all might agree with. Be respectful in the comments, please. And yeah, let's talk about it. Let's talk about being a virtuous woman, being a woman after God's own heart, and what that should look like and how it should reflect in your home, in your career, in whatever it is that you do. And I just want to point out that whether you're a working mom, a stay-at-home mom, or a wife, a work from home, whatever it is that you do, God can and will bless that. But like I said, you have to make sure that you are lined up, just in terms of your spirit and your heart. So that's really the gist of this message. If you are there already and you feel like you're thriving in all areas of your life, please leave me some comments below. Give me some tips. If you're not, then let's discuss some ways to help, to help us be better in those areas. And if I can have an honest moment, I would say I'm like nearing the end of really finding myself as a wife and how to be a helpmeet towards my husband and with my family, and also finding that balance where I am still pouring into myself and I'm still happy, because that in that area is where I kind of lack a little bit. So I'm still trying to find like what makes me happy. I love doing YouTube. I always have. It's funny because this is my second channel. The first time I did a channel, it was makeup. It was all makeup related because that was what I loved. It was before I really had any type of relationship with God. I knew God, or he knew me. I didn't know him. But since evolving, we're constantly evolving, and I feel like we shouldn't get pigeonholed into one purpose. I feel like there's no freedom in that. And my main thing since finding Christ is making sure that I don't lock myself down again. And that's scripture. Like Paul said, don't find yourself bound again by rules and regulations that people have put in place when Christ has already made you free. So even in this video, I'm not telling you need to be a stay-at-home mom so you can pray for your husband. No, I'm telling you that, and please watch the whole video. Please watch this whole video. I'm not telling you that. And I'm also not telling you that I'm just not putting any rules on it. I'm telling you to stay connected to God. That's always my message, to stay under the covering of Christ Jesus, to stay in alignment with who he is, with his word and prayer. And yeah, I want to see you thrive. I want to see us thrive. I want to see us together as the church and building each other up the way that God designed it to be. So I love you, ladies. And I hope that this video has enlightened someone and helped someone. And yeah, I'll talk to you in my next video. Bye.